Hello and welcome to Autumn Premier League Match Day 21st. It's going to be an odd one because it's spread in 2 weeks. Tom Rennie, happy to see you back during our absence. Arsenal lost all the trophies that they could win, apart from the Champions.
Yes, I mean, good old Arsenal, God bless them. They draw us in. We start to feel confidence in them. This is their year, and they find a way to blow it every year. And Spursy is the thing. Do I have to start saying RC now? I suppose so.
Well, we have an exciting match day, of course, as I said, spread in 2 weeks to give the players some rest. Also, we have AFL Cup in the meantime. So remember, guys, of course, leave your comments, press the like, subscribe. Let's go on, Tom, with the show. And of course, a new year, but still we have the all good offers, like the one with 1xbet. Get 30% more with your first deposit thanks to Oddspedia. Use the promo code Oddspedia YouTube. You have the link in the description. Well, Tom, first game is going to be played on Friday, this match day, the 12th. The last game is going to be played 10 days after, on Monday, the 22nd. Let's start with this relegation battle game. Burnley, Luton Town. Is very likely that we see this game also next season, but in the Championship, and I'm surprised to see the odds, to be honest. Would you place Burnley, this favorite, as opposed to Luton?
No, I'm really surprised. That is incredibly low for a Burnley victory, considering across the season overall, just 3 victories at home, just 1 victory from 10 games played at Turf Moor this season, with 9 defeats. They've not even managed to squeak a draw in a game where they've played well, but couldn't even get a point from it. I think about the West Ham game, most specifically, where they were the best team for 86 minutes and were 1-0 up in the 86th minute and found a way to lose that game 2-1. So I'm amazed at the odds. I wouldn't touch 2 for Burnley to win with your money, let alone my money. But I can see why there might be some confidence in Burnley. Lyle Foster is back. He's not gone to AFCON with South Africa. He scores goals. People like Wilson Odobert have stepped up, and he's got an extraordinary goal. Was it at Fulham last time out? So I can see why there's some green shoots with Burnley, but they're still going to get relegated. They're not this favourite to win this game. And even though you might fancy them, it's not worth your money on this particular set of odds. And Luton Town as well. I just wonder if it's because no one is betting on Luton. No one's betting on Luton because they are so incredibly unfashionable. But 2 victories away from home in the Premier League is not to be sniffed at. Their victory at Sheffield United, though, of course, it was a Sheffield United implosion, is not to be sniffed at. And, they don't lose games if they do lose by much. 12 defeats, I know, is not great, but it's been by the odd goal. Look at the goal difference differential. 23 scored, 37 conceded, minus 14. You might think that ain't great, but Burnley minus 21, Sheffield United minus 34 shows you of those trio of teams, they're the one that hang in games more than the others. So there's a couple of things worth noting here. I actually wouldn't bet on Burnley because of the odds. Luton to win at 4 is wild. I think that's wild. I think these are 2 pretty even teams. They play different styles of football, but who's got more of a goal threat? I think it's probably Luton with Adebayo up front. He's shown he can score goals. And Josh Townsend rolling back the years with 1 or 2 performances. I think if you look at the midfield, who's the best player in the 2 teams? Ross Barkley has been extraordinarily good for Luton. And defensively, I'd actually give Luton the edge. And the stats give Luton the edge as well in terms of goals conceded, as mentioned. So I'm just going to take Luton straight up here. Luton straight up at 4.1 is worth taking because there is no Burnley money to be made. You've got to make a handicap for Burnley to win. Is anyone out there confident to go a -2 handicap for Burnley to win this game? I'm certainly not. So take Luton, 4.1. I think you can make that. It's risky, but the odds are really good.
Yeah, even if you want to be a little bit more cautious, you can play Luton, Asian Handicap plus something, and you will get really good odds. Still, both teams to score, for instance, for I am under 2.5 goals for Ali YouTuber. Well, this is the relegation battle game. Then on Saturday we have two games. Derby in the west of London. Chelsea, Fulham, mid-table teams. This season both losers in the League Cup semi-finals first leg. Chelsea against Middlesbrough, breaking their good run, their amazing run of 3 victories in a row. This is great news for Chelsea, and Fulham gave a very good image against Arsenal. It's very difficult to bet on these two teams, Tom, throughout the season. I wouldn't put my money on Chelsea for sure, not on Fulham. There is good value, of course.
I just feel like we've lost too much money on Chelsea now at this point. I feel like whenever we've gone with the Chelsea victory, they've found a way to lose. Whenever we've gone with Chelsea to lose, they've pulled off an extraordinary victory. So it's a brave viewer that would put any money on Chelsea. And even look at the Luton game. We picked Chelsea to win at Luton, and we got that right. And we did go for the over scoreline, so we got that right. But the third pick of the week was to go on a kind of goal differential, so then winning 3-1. They still somehow from 3-0 up finished 2-3 and very nearly drew that game. So, and of course, the Carabao Cup in midweek away at Middlesbrough. They go into that game as big favourites. They have 500 shots at goal and lose the game 1-0. So it's very tricky. And with Fulham, you know, really impressed, actually, the last couple of weeks. I know that they, in the end, were beaten in the Carabao Cup, but a great performance in the first half. Willian doing a bit of his last season business. Raul Jimenez scoring goals. There's some positive stuff about Fulham. And so if you fancy Fulham, fine. That's absolutely fine. Go for it. But I think you've got to look at their away form this season, which has been atrocious. Just one victory on the road all season, 1 point in the last 5. And they've conceded so many goals away from home as well. Fulham, 23 conceded across the season, but a 3-0 against Bournemouth, a 3-0 against Newcastle, a 4-2, I think it was, against Fulham, against Liverpool, 4-3, a 3 against Aston Villa. They're going to concede goals. And Chelsea do score, actually. For all their faults and all their issues, 34 goals scored across the season is pretty decent. They got, obviously, the 3 against Luton, 2 against Palace. They can score goals. So the only thing I can see here is goals, goals, goals. If you're going to go for a Chelsea win, don't take 1.6, waste of your time. Go Chelsea winning over 2.5. It's cautious because I'm scared of betting on Chelsea. That brings you in at 2.25. If you think over 3.5 goals in this match, that gets you above the 3 threshold, the 2-1 threshold, double your money we're looking for. So top tip, over 2.5, but you can take over 3.5 for 3.5. And I think one of those, certainly the first one's going to come in.
Well, Tyson is going for a double chance for Fulham. I was reading some comments about Chelsea's fans already getting tired of Pochettino. Do you think he still has some credit, or he's running out of this credit?
I don't think he's got any credit. I don't think he's got any credit in the bank at all with Chelsea. He's not been a successful Chelsea manager by any stretch of the imagination. The trouble is they did this last season with Graham Potter and then sacked him. And then what happened? They had to bring in a work experience in Frank Lampard for a few months, and it was very embarrassing. So I just don't know where they would go next if they sack Pochettino. So in the end, I think he sees out the season, even though they're in a pitifully low position right now. They could still finish top 7, and maybe that'd be all right.
Let's see. Mam's Spaghetti is going for Asian Handicap plus 1.5 for Fulham. This is a good one, actually. Next game on Saturday, we have Newcastle Man City. What a game. We saw earlier this season this game, and Newcastle won. It was in the Carabao Cup long time ago. Right now, Newcastle in a bad position in the Premier League with 3 consecutive defeats. Man City cruising. We mentioned at the beginning of the Christmas period, Tom, that they had an easy run of fixtures and they've won them all.
Yeah, because that's what they do. They win games in a run of games and turn the season on its head. They do it every single year. They've done it for the majority of the last half decade. And look, their overall form is a bit sketchy. I think it's 2 victories at home in the last 5, 3 draws in that run. But they score goals, that they're improving continually. I think the confidence of winning the Nonsense World Championship Cup will give them a big boost. And from this point onwards, I'm probably going to go City win every single game because they do it every year in the 20 to 38 stretch. In terms of Newcastle, it's worth mentioning that I actually still think they're having a good campaign. I know they're 9th in the table currently with 1 win in their last 5, but the back end of that kind of Christmas run, the injuries were a joke. The players missing were a joke. The Champions League disappointment. So much had happened to Newcastle that they were just flagging. And this little break will hopefully for them do more. And I think it will do more than for any other team in the league, because there's just so many players have been missing and the players that have played have been kind of flogged. Still no Tonali, no Pope, no Target, no Murphy, no Barnes. Doubts about Callum Wilson for this one. I think he's probably going to miss it. Joe Willock, Elliot Anderson, Joe Linton might come back, but beyond that, it's kind of as you were. But the team that they have got with Isak and Gordon and Almiron, very good front three. They've had a nice week off for the first time in a long time. Should make a big difference here. So I think Newcastle are going to be in this game. I think they'll score in this game. Their home scoring record this season is incredible. If their away form replicated their home form, they'd be champions by now. It's 8 victories in 10. It's 23 goals scored, just 7 conceded. Really, really impressive. The issue is, of course, they're playing Manchester City. I think that City, best away form in the country now, better than Liverpool, better than Tottenham, better than Arsenal. 2 victories in a row. The victory over Everton was a blueprint for this game, I think. There are susceptible things about City, so I think Newcastle will score, but I do think City will come on stronger as the game goes on. City at 1.62 is no use to you. If you look at the pattern of recent results, both teams to score by the Sheffield United game is the way City games are going. So City win, both teams score, brings you in at your double money 3. And I will also look potentially 2 at this game being level at halftime. City come on strong as the game goes on. But top tip, both teams score.
Well, 1.6 Man City to win. This is quite high for Man City standards. Gaurap is going as well for both teams to score. Next games on Sunday, Everton, Aston Villa. We have Everton only 1 point away from Luton, so they might be in relegation spots when they kick off because they lost the last 3 games in the Premier League. And Aston Villa, they had a tough Christmas period with the draw against Sheffield United, unexpected, the defeat against Man United when they were leading 2-0. And luckily for them, Tom, at least they were able to beat Burnley in the last minute, so they are second in the standings still.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting game, a really interesting game, because all results are possible. This might be one to avoid the weekend. In terms of Everton, a couple of good wins, then a defeat. 1 week you can't score against them. Next week they're conceding 3. Really, really difficult. And it's worth noting they are still in massive relegation trouble with the 10-point deduction. And so there's a pressure on their games that there isn't really, even on Aston Villa, who are trying to qualify for the Champions League, if not, win the league. Unlikely, but they're in that mix currently. So huge pressure on Everton to win these games of football. And I think you saw maybe in the last couple of weeks that the boost, if you can put it that way, of the 10-point deduction has now come to its conclusion. And now Everton have settled back into what they have been for a long time, relegation candidates, a pretty basic football team. And if Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who got sent off in the FA Cup game, is not fit or not able to play because of suspension, the replacement, Beto, just not anywhere near the required quality. Calvert-Lewin, if fit, is a 50, 60 million pound striker. Beto is not. And I'm not trying to criticize Beto here. I'm just saying that they wouldn't be able to afford someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The reason he is still there and has been there so long is because his fitness record is so atrocious. Also worth noting, too, that Abdoulaye Doucouré, without him, they have stopped scoring goals. He should be back for this game. We might get a change in that news coming up to kickoff, but I think he scored something like 1 in 3 was his record for Everton under Sean Dyche as number 2 striker. Without him, they stopped scoring goals. So him coming back in could be a key differential here. For Aston Villa, I worked on the Man United game, and I thought that Emery actually got his tactics wrong in the second half. To continue to play that high line against Man United at 2-0 up was dumb, frankly. I don't care about your reputation and how great a coach you are. That was really stupid to do that in that second half, because at 2-0 up, if they went low block, they'd beat Man United. In the end, they tried to do whatever they tried to do. They kept the back door open and were beaten comfortably in the end by a pretty poor Manchester United team. Away from home, they score goals, but they're inconsistent. Looking at this one, I think it's pot luck. Both teams to score, I definitely fancy that. I would take Everton, because I think Everton at home will potentially be able to force victory here. So take Everton to win, both teams to score. It brings you in extraordinarily at 5. But I also wouldn't discount the draw. Draw market 3.5. That's me sitting on the fence, I'm afraid.
Well, both teams to score alone is 1.6. Our audience agrees with you. Actually, Ian, Ali YouTuber, or Viper are going as well for both teams to score. And another interesting game on Sunday, Man United Tottenham. We had a comment before saying that he didn't understand the odds for Tottenham. How on earth Tottenham can be the underdog for this game with these really high odds? Man United haven't shown us absolutely anything in the last weeks. They haven't improved. Tom, one victory in the last 5 Premier League games. Tottenham, close to the Champions League spots, is 5 wins in the last 6. Should we put our money on the Spurs?
Yeah, these odds are odd. These odds are very strange, and it goes to something we speak about a lot on the programme, that casual bettors around the world bet on Manchester United to win because they are so incredibly well supported, and people who don't even like football have heard of them. And so your casual punter, you take your husband to the gambling shop and you'd be like, oh, do you want to put a bet on? Here's a £5, or what do you want? Or the kids or whatever, I'll put something on for you. You know, yada, yada, yada. It happens all around the world, and everyone goes, oh, Man United win, because they don't know. And that's why their odds are so low. I wouldn't touch 2.26 Man United to win, because it's just not in any way safe that that's going to happen. And Tottenham's form, as you've mentioned, really, really good. Their away form this season, really, really good. Even in recent times with the injuries they've got, it's 2 wins in 5, a draw in there as well. Defeat against Brighton, defeat against Wolves. Both those teams played really well those days. But tremendous record. And United at home, I think it's 6 wins and 4 defeats. There's no draws. They either win it or they get beat. They're either all right or utterly useless. And I wouldn't put any money on Manchester United. Even in the win against Aston Villa, as mentioned, if Villa just played sensibly, they would have won that game. They did the only tactic that kind of allowed Man United back into the match. And the absentee list is still long. Martinez, Casemiro, Mason Mount. Amrabat is away at the AFCON. Malacia, Ericsson. Anthony's got a tight hamstring read this morning. Still no Maguire. Still no Lindelof. Martial is unwell. Jadon Sancho's gone to Dortmund. It's crazy. Not that adding many of them players would make much difference, I know, but it's still a huge amount of a lack of options for Erik ten Hag. So how's this game going to go? Well, firstly, take Tottenham win as the top tip, 3.2. Extraordinary odds for a Tottenham win, considering their recent forms. I also think that Tottenham are likely to start this game strong. United are not early pressers, and Tottenham are. So Tottenham winning at half-time in this game brings you in at 3.25, which I really like. They are a team that will come out all guns blazing, old school, in the opening kind of 20, 25 minutes. Also, Tottenham winning both teams to score brings you in at 4.5 as well. And the reason I like that is I think Tottenham start running away with this, and then Man United come back into it. So Tottenham winning both teams to score is 4.5 here. And that feels so realistic to me the more I consider this game as I talk to you. Do I think United will score? Yeah, because Tottenham are going to play a suicidal high line, and Garnacho will probably hit them on the break and they'll score a goal. Maybe Rashford gets a tap in, whatever. But I think with the attacking options that Spurs have, Son, Richarlison, even Timo Werner, if he's learned what offside is since we last saw him, I think they're going to be able to score goals. So both teams score, Tottenham win, and even Tottenham win on its own. Double your money. Take it.
Is Son gonna be playing this game, or he's gone, no, in the Asian Cup?
You know, just talking broadly about the players they've got that can score. But I mean, look at the attacking options, even without Son, with Kulusevski, with Richarlison, with Timo Werner, even Pape Sarr is scoring goals. Bissouma, when fit, is scoring goals. Pedro Porro is scoring goals. They score goals from everywhere. Whoever they pick, whoever they've got, even without Maddison, they're gonna score goals. And so you've got to keep betting on that.
Well, let's see also, because it's a major blow, so going to the Asian Cup. But as you said, also Man United, they have a lot of absentees. Great game, this Man United Tottenham 3.2 is offered by Marathon Bet. By the way, someone is saying that in Australia they get lower odds for the Tottenham victory. Next game is gonna be on Saturday, the 20th of January. We are talking about Arsenal Crystal Palace, another good one here, because as I said in the intro, Tom, Arsenal, they lost all the trophies in the Christmas period out of the FA Cup against Liverpool. In the Premier League, they lost to Fulham, they lost to West Ham, even if the draw in Anfield looked like a good result some weeks ago. And Palace could be a tricky one, as Man City knows.
Yeah, look, I think the reports of Arsenal's demise are greatly exaggerated. I think it's been a kind of short run of bad form that, look, it's cost them in the FA Cup, sure, but I don't think the FA Cup was anywhere near the list of priorities for Arsenal this season. And I think they will come good again. You know, Bukayo Saka has stopped scoring. Martinelli has not really scored well all season, and Gabriel Jesus is not a goal scorer. These are things that we sort of knew. And last season they got around it, and Saka was incredible and scored a bunch of goals. And I don't think it's a striker that it's different options. You know, it's Martinelli has been pretty woeful in front of goal this season, and he's getting a bit of a free ride because their expectations are low. But Arsenal's attack is built on both wingers scoring 10 to 15. And Saka is underperforming his numbers, but Martinelli is way underperforming his numbers. And that's a significant problem. But I think it will turn around, even without significant January purchases. I think that they are too good. And I think that the issue with Crystal Palace is that I think they're just floating in a kind of nowhere space, right? It's great to see Eze back. It's great to see Elise back. It's great to see Roy Hodgson having some of the attacking talent that made the back end of last season so exciting for Crystal Palace. But in the end, they don't have a kind of top quality Premier League squad, and Elise might be able to nick you a goal, and Eze might have the occasional great game, but you're still dealing with, Joel Ward and a lot of Will Hughes, kind of bang average, slightly past their best Premier League players. I think they'll be in this game, though, and I think maybe some of the nerves of the recent times will affect Arsenal. And look, 1.36 right now, it's not a safe bet for Arsenal. But if you look at a draw at half-time, that's Crystal Palace doggedly defending well. That's Arsenal struggling to score in this game and then coming good in the second half. I think we can all see that. We've seen that game so many times over the years. So if Palace do not score in that first half, and history tells us they won't, 0-0 at halftime, Arsenal go on to win it. That brings you in at 4. That is a really, really good number for a likely scenario. The other scenarios here scream under to me. I think that there's a chance that Arsenal win this game 1-0, maybe 2-0. That's it. Arsenal win under 3.5 goals in the match brings you in at 2. It's not particularly healthy, but it's a very safe bet and brings you in above the, whatever it was, 1.36 for Arsenal, which is useless. Under 2.5 goals in the match, if you're slightly more daring, that's a 2-0 win for Arsenal, 1-0 win for Arsenal. That brings you in at 3.5, slightly juicier. But for me, draw at halftime, Arsenal go on to win.
Okay, Tyson thinks this is going to be an ugly game because Palace will make it ugly, but we have some other people trusting Arsenal. Arsenal -1, for instance, Gaurab is telling us, well, they have to bounce back at one point or not. Let's see. But they are out of the title race, I would say, at this point. Next game, Saturday as well. Brentford, Nottingham Forest. Forest are very dangerous and they have brilliant odds for this game, 3.88 to win against Brentford, 5 points away from relegation after beating Man United and Newcastle in the last 2 games. For Brentford, still bad news. Tom, 5 consecutive defeats in the Premier League, 7 in the last 8.
Yeah, their worst ever Premier League run, and it's not a surprise, really, that they've had no Brian Mbeumo. Johan Wissa has been injured, and Ivan Toney is still another game away from coming back. I think this will be his last Premier League game he's unavailable for before returning for Brentford, which is just so vital for them because they rely so much on solidity, organisation, and the guys up top doing a bit of magic. It's not too dissimilar to the way Wolves play, the way West Ham play, the way Everton play, slightly less ugly than that, but defend well, get bodies forward, look for flick-ons, let the guys up front do their magic. And that's the way it's been for Brentford, and they've done a really good job at it. But now Rico Henry remains out, and Mbeumo we've mentioned, no Hickey, no Shade, no Christopher Ayer, Tony we've mentioned, Ben Mee suspended, Johan Wissa, Frank the Tank Onyeka, Godos, Norgard injured too. I think he got injured in the FA Cup. So half the first team's missing, all the attack is missing, and the captain's missing. What are we expecting here from Brentford? They also can't attract replacements. People don't want to play for Brentford because they are low-wage payers. Though I will give a quick note to Neil Maupay, who's come in and surprised us all by learning how to score goals again. Maybe it's a case of right player, right club. But you've got to look at Nottingham Forest here. You've got to look at what they've been able to do in the last few games under Nuno Espirito Santo, who Came in the end, I think all the players, or most of the players, had fallen out with Steve Cooper. I think he was there because the fans loved him, but he was way overdue. He was not at his depth in the Premier League at Nottingham Forest, and I think you've seen that in a couple of games since Nuno's come in. It's pretty classic new manager bounce stuff, but why not enjoy the bounce? Victory over Newcastle and victory over Manchester United would not have happened if they'd have kept Steve Cooper, so it kind of makes it worthwhile. They'll go on a losing run again, I'm sure, but for the moment, there's a lot of confidence about Nottingham Forest. And beyond Awoniyi, even with their long injury list, I don't see too many players here that would get back in this team. I know there's some doubts about Alanga going to this one, but I think he's going to be fit. So, look, on recent form, only one way to go. You take Nottingham Forest to win. That's a 3.88. They've won 2 in a row, including at St James's Park, whereas Brentford can't buy a win right now. So, wouldn't touch Brentford. Don't mess around too much here. Forest win, 3.88. Take it, run with it.
All right. Forest is in a very good shape, of course. Mr. Ardeco is telling us next game is Sheffield United West Ham, 2.2 for West Ham to win. Of course, they are the favorites, but still good odds. I saw that you were getting bored, Tom, watching them in the draw against Brighton, but they had a great Christmas period, beating Man United, beating Arsenal, Sheffield bottom of the table. West Ham should go there and win.
Yeah, I mean, look, West Ham are a tough watch at times. And with no Mohamed Kudus, no Lucas Paqueta, and probably no Jarrod Bowen for this game as well. They're Bowen the most likely of the trio to play. Of course, Kudus out in AFCON and Paqueta injured. If that 3 aren't playing, then there's no real backup for that. You know, West Ham are a bit like Brentford. I mentioned earlier on that defensively sound, midfield's pretty solid. They'll score a corner. They won't give the ball away too much and yada, yada, yada. But really, it's those 3 attackers that have set West Ham apart this season. The reason they go into this kind of winter break period in 6th is because of the ability in front of goal of Jarrod Bowen and Mohamed Kudus and the creativity of Paqueta. Without that 3, you bring in what? Fornals, who else? Ben Rama, if he's still there by this game, and Mubama, who looks pretty average, the young kid. So, you know, it depends who's fit for West Ham. If one of them is fit, if Bowen is fit, I think they win. If not, I think this will be 0-0 because I have no faith in Sheffield United. I think that they have made improvements since Chris Wilder has come in, but as shown in the Luton game, they still have that self-destruct button because the team isn't good enough. The players aren't good enough. Fotheringham isn't good enough. Norwood's past his best. McBurney's not a Premier League striker. I mean, on and on it goes. Signing Cameron Archer, be great for next year, not for this year. So you got issues there. You wouldn't bet on Sheffield United here, even at these odds. You couldn't do it, though. I think with West Ham's injuries, they've got more of a chance than if the senior players were playing. Low scoring is what I'm looking at here, and you go for a West Ham victory, a 1-0 West Ham victory, which I think was the scoreline last time they played at Bramall Lane, brings you at 3.5. So again, 2.2 I wouldn't touch. I'll take West Ham to win to nil at 3.5. Their away record this season is pretty decent. Their games are not particularly thrilling. But if they get a goal, they won't concede one and they'll go on to win it. Don't discount the draw at 3.5 as well. It screams 0-0 draw to me, frankly. But I do think West Ham can probably score a corner and go on to win the game. But 3.5 for a draw is nice. And it's my first group bet of the day. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 covers a lot of bases and doubles your money.
Well, this should be a tough to watch, to swallow game. Mr. Ardeco says, don't overthink this. This is going to be a West Ham victory. Well, next game, Tom, on Sunday we have Bournemouth, Liverpool. Let's see, because it's a very tough test for the leaders of the Premier League without Mohamed Salah in the Africa Cup of Nations, without Trent Alexander-Arnold injured. They were able at least to win against Fulham in the Carabao Cup, and they beat Newcastle and Burnley in the Premier League before this game. Bournemouth also in a good run despite the defeat against Tottenham. Oh, this is a tough one for Liverpool, Tom.
Yeah, very tricky, very tricky. Bournemouth have had a brilliant Christmas, along with West Ham and Wolves and 1 or 2 other teams. December has changed their season, November and December. Solanke scoring goals, which is really impressive. You know, he's been fantastic this season. I think defensively quite sound over the last 2 or 3 games. Bournemouth look well organised. Even when conceding goals, you've got to do something special to score against Bournemouth, as opposed to, you know, playing Burnley and you score by accident. So lots of great improvement there. But I do think that Liverpool are going to be too strong for them. And they're going to be too strong because Liverpool have not played well this season, really at all, and are top of the league going into this round of fixtures. They are still in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. They're in the FA Cup. They're in the Europa League and a big favourite. So extraordinarily impressive so far this season from Liverpool, despite not really passing, the eyeball test and wanting to watch them. Look at the recent form in these games as well, too. Think about the Sheffield United game. Think about the Crystal Palace game for Liverpool. They are not going to thrill you, but they are going to win it. I know salary's missing, but I do think you saw in the Carabao Cup in midweek with Jota and Darwin Nunez and Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz, they can find a combination of players to score the goals to win games like this. But I do think it'll be quite tight. So look at Liverpool win. 1.78 is no good. So look at it, under 3.5 goals in this match. That's really conservative as well. But if you look at the recent away form for Liverpool, that keeps coming in. They are not thrashing teams away from home. I could not confidently predict an Asian handicap here. 2-0 against Burnley, 2-1 against Crystal Palace, 2-0 against Sheffield United, and the 1-1 draw against Luton tells me that it's going to be under 3.5. Liverpool win, 2.88. That's really nice. I feel quite confident about that. If you want to get above the threshold, the best I can find is Liverpool win to 0. That's 3.5. That's a 1-0 victory. That's a 2-0 victory. I know Dominic Solanke's been brilliant, but if he doesn't score, nobody scores. And I back Liverpool to keep him out. I'd also be looking here, slightly wilder, very tight game in the first half, draw at half-time, Liverpool win in the end, brings you in at 5. Again, that's really high and a bit of a wild card bet because the other two I'm very confident in. But 5, I don't think you can ignore.
Well, Mams Spaghetti just told us that Liverpool, they are brilliant in the second half, indeed, of the games. We saw it against Fulham and, for instance, against Newcastle in that game that also Mams Spaghetti was reminded us the expected goal, 7.2, a new record in the Premier League, or since even this piece of statistics are recorded. They played brilliant. It's very nice to watch this Liverpool's rock and roll again style with Jurgen Klopp. And for the last game in this match day 21st, Tom, we have Brighton Wolves. You mentioned the good form of Wolves during Christmas period. 3 consecutive victories. Everton, Brentford, Chelsea, only 1 defeat in the last 7 games, but Brighton, they are still a good team, especially at home. Only 1 defeat in the whole season. In the Premier League, it's kind of hit and miss lately. It's only 1 victory in the last 5.
Yeah, good news, though, for Brighton is that the injury list has started finally to clear up a little bit for them. Look, there's still lots of players out, including Solly March and Adingra and Mitoma and Ansu Fati. So it's not amazing, but it certainly feels like more players are available, and they are relying on the veterans, Lallana and Milner, who have been really good in recent weeks to pull them out of the fire. And that seems fair enough. They've done a really good job. So, and I think as well, they should have beaten West Ham 4-0. If they'd have had some of those attacking talents, they'd have won that quite comfortably in a game that was too far for West Ham that night. Did well to hold on for a 0-0. So I think that things are getting better for Brighton. I think this winter break will do them a massive favour. And by the time we get to the end of January and into February's games, they will look a different beast. And of course, Europa League comes back round in March, which makes it tough again. But I think things will clear up. In terms of Wolverhampton Wanderers, they're very similar to, I keep mentioning it, but West Ham and Newcastle United, even the way they try and do the shortest amount of passes from winning it to having a shot at the other end. And we could call it counter-attack football. We can call it direct football. But we can call it effective football. And it has been very effective for Wolverhampton Wanderers in recent times. 3 victories in a row, home and away. Their away form has been reasonably decent in the last few weeks. 1 victory, I know, and 4 defeats. But some of the performances were pretty good. They got shafted. Apart from the West Ham game where they lost 3-0, they played really good at Arsenal. They played really good at Fulham. They played really good at Sheffield United. And things just sort of didn't go their way. The form itself is quite good. And I'd feel quite confident in Wolves if I was the manager, Gary O'Neill, of having a good campaign and not getting dragged into any sort of relegation conversation. What do we do here? Well, you pick a winner and you bet on both teams to score. I know that's not come in twice for Brighton in the last few weeks, and so it's seemed like a less safe bet. But Brighton to win at 1.7 is no good. I think Brighton will just about shade this. 2-1, 3-1. I think they'll come on stronger as the game goes on. Brighton win both teams to score, brings you in double the money. But don't discount the draw here. if you look at recent Brighton games, that's the issue. It's not been performances, it's been getting over the line. A whole host of 1-1 draws, 3 in their last 5. So 1-1 draw, or Brighton win it with both teams scoring, but take the draw at 4.4, and I think you'll make some money there as well.
Someone is asking about Hwang. Of course, he's gone as well to the Asian Cup with Korea. Well, Tom, long match day. This one, tell me your best bet for these games.
Yeah, tricky across this particular weekend, but the safest bet out there is to take an Arsenal victory. Crystal Palace are a team who they can beat and should beat. I know Palace are a slight wild card here, but I do think Arsenal will come good. I do think the criticism will have stung, and they're going to beat Crystal Palace, and it's the safest bet of the week.
I have to say that there are no safe bets, as you said, in this match day. All the games are really leveled, balanced, and the ACCA?
3-team ACCA this week brings you in a W money, just over. Chelsea victory, I know that's wild, putting them in an ACCA. Arsenal, I've mentioned already, safest bet of the week in quite a tricky week. Throw Liverpool in there as well to win at Bournemouth, which is a real variable with how good Bournemouth have been. That brings you in at 4, which I think is really, really nice for a trio.
Okay, you put a tenner, you get 40 pounds or euros or whatever. Tom, thank you. Time to enjoy the Premier League little by little after all the excesses in the Christmas period. Take it easy. Take it easy. Bye-bye.